thank you all for joining us. This is Next Fest Q&A session. I am here to answer your questions about Next Fest. If you have important questions about how to participate, how to make use of it, how it works, I can talk about all of that stuff. My name is Alden Kroll. I'm a designer here at Valve. I've been working on Steam for quite a while, so I know quite a bit about how the features work and how these fests run. Helped get Next Fest up and running to begin with. And I've been running a lot of these Q&A sessions, normally with one of my colleagues, but she is out today. So if you have questions, please use the Q&A channel at the bottom of your screen, and I'll try to work through your questions. This is intended to be a pretty casual, kind of an open house style, so you can come ask your question. If you get your question answered, you're welcome to leave. You don't have to stick around for the whole hour. Or you can just hang out and listen to what kind of questions other people ask. Yeah, I see a comment about the Steam Award on the shelf behind us. That's actually the older version. We have a newer version of the Steam Award, so maybe I'll get that updated for the next Q&A. All right, questions are starting to come in, so I'm gonna just kind of start working through these one at a time. And if I don't get to answer your question, I apologize, but we should be able to get through all of these here. Let's see. Okay, so the very first question for Yaroslav is, do we have to have the Steam page live by the 26th of August in order to send a submission for the fest? We ask that you have a store page live, but it is not enforced or required. So if you don't have your store page ready to go live by the time registration closes, then that's okay. Really, we look at store pages when we are trying to decide and pick a selection of games to feature in our trailer to promote Next Fest itself. So if you don't have a live store page, then we won't be able to consider your game for that. But really, it's only a couple of handfuls of games that we're able to accommodate in the trailer anyways. So your chances of being included are pretty slim to begin with. So if it works better for you to not have your store page live yet by the time you register, that's just fine. You obviously need to make it live in order to participate when you get to that point. Christian has a question. Are there any significant changes versus the last few Next Fests? I don't think anything is significantly changing this time around. We iterate a little bit on the page every time around, just trying to optimize how things are merchandised, make it easier for players to find their way through Next Fest, make sure that games are getting seen and getting presented to the players that are most likely interested in them. But no major changes this time around. Just as a recap, kind of how we run Next Fest is the first couple of days, everything across Next Fest or almost everything across Next Fest is randomized. And so we learn, so that's kind of on the Monday and the Tuesday of Next Fest. So we learn from players as they interact with the games in Next Fest. They add things to their wish list, they add things, and install demos and start playing them. That gives us data on the kinds of people and which games they like, and then we can use that data then for the rest of Next Fest, starting usually Wednesday morning, Pacific time. We use that data to inform generating recommendations for new users that are coming in and exploring Next Fest from that point forward. So it doesn't necessarily mean your game will see more or less people or get shown to more or less people, but starting on Wednesday, we'll be able to target and focus your game to the people that we believe are most likely interested in it at that point. Raymond has a question. Trailer and marketing. How will Valve know which trailer to pull for Next Fest marketing? Like I said in the very beginning, we look at store pages as we're going through. So once registration closes, then we start going through and looking for a selection of games. And what we're looking for really is we want to represent the breadth and variety of kind of games that are included in Next Fest. So we don't think it's necessarily a really big boon for the games that we select in terms of promotion and visibility. Yes, they're included on our trailer, and our trailer gets seen on our social media channels, Twitter and Blue Sky and YouTube. But it's hard to measure or hard to tell how much of an impact that has on any of the individual games included. Really, what we're trying to do is just represent to players, hey, come to Next Fest because there's probably a game that you're interested in, the kind of game that you're interested in, whether it's strategy or RPG or simulation or whatnot. So we're looking for a broad variety of kinds of games, and we'll be pulling. I think we pull from the first trailer that is listed on your store page, which should be the thing that you're most proud to show to customers and is going to be most engaging and interesting to customers, anyways. Verena has a question. How long does a store page have to be public or coming soon to be eligible for NextFest? Is there a minimum time requirement? No. In fact, there's no minimum requirement for a lot of things here. You don't need to have a coming soon page up for a certain amount of time. You don't need to launch your demo during NextFest. You can have a demo that you've already had live in the past. That's totally fine. NextFest is really meant to be flexible and a way to shine a light on the demos for unreleased games. We've heard from a lot of developers that might want to release their demo ahead of NextFest, make sure that they get people testing it and trying it out and giving them feedback before they participate in NextFest. Seems like not a bad way to go to get some confidence and some feedback and make sure that your demo is stable and ready for a bunch of people potentially piling in on it during NextFest. So we've heard a lot of people take that route. And we've also heard a lot of people that just launch at NextFest and they want that to be their announcement time period or their announcement event for the demo. And that's also fine. It's really up to you and your schedule and how you want to work that around your development and honestly when your demo is ready. So come up with a deliberate plan that works for you and your team, and it should be able to fit into NextFest however you want to run that. I guess the only real stipulation is that your game can't be released yet by NextFest. So your full game needs to release sometime after NextFest, because NextFest is targeted for games that are not yet available for people to buy and play. All right, Tim has a question. What is the reasoning behind not allowing games that are in early access in NextFest? It feels like it forces games that want to do early access launch a demo super early. Thanks. Yeah, so we look at early access. Early access launch is a game launch. At that point, your game is purchasable, it's playable by customers. So we consider that to be released. Early access is really just meant to be a framework of messaging that helps players understand that you plan to continue developing the game with player feedback. So we look at a game that is launched into early access is pretty equivalent to a game that is fully launched. So that is not the point of NextFest. The point of NextFest is to try out games before they're available to purchase, available to play, and just with a demo, which is intended to be a small slice of the gaming experience. So if you intend to release your game into early access, you're welcome to do that after you participate in NextFest. But if you have already launched your game into early access, you're no longer eligible for participation in NextFest. Scott asks, what exactly does it mean to be a demo? Our game is a co-op game, live service game, so we're just going to open it up for play if that works. Yeah, so Scott and everybody else, the exact contents of your demo is really up to you. We recommend, and I guess what we've heard from a lot of game developers that works well, is really thinking about how much of your content do you want to expose in the demo so that you're not giving away too much of the game for people to play during that period, and leave them at a point where they're excited to play the full game and they want to get the full game to continue their experience. So if your game is a live service co-op game, your demo probably isn't going to contain the entire set of maps, isn't going to necessarily contain all of the different heroes and characters that they can play as. You probably want to scope that down to some subset of that content to make it available for people to try out for free in the demo. And then when you release your full game, that's what's going to get people excited to go play the full game so that they can try out all the other maps and all the other heroes. But the answer to that question is really going to differ depending on each of your games. Each of you are going to have to decide how long you want your demo to be so that people get enough of a taste of it, get excited about it, but kind of end that demo experience at a point where those players are wanting more and they're going to be excited to jump in and get the full game when it releases. Calvin asks if there are frequently asked questions that newbies should know about. Absolutely. There's, we're going through a whole bunch of them right here. I'm going to drop a link into the chat to our general documentation for Next Fest. There's a lot of stuff answered in there. And then we have particular information for the next upcoming one. So for October 2025, we have a specific documentation page for that as well. So a lot of information on those 2 pages. Definitely make sure you look through them. A lot of the important dates and things like that will be covered in those 2 documentations. Let's see. Jill asks, we plan to post a coming soon page on August 22nd, and then we'll join the Next Fest. Do you think this timing will work? Yep, that timing works just fine. You can also register for Next Fest now. That's totally fine, even if you don't have a store page live yet. As I mentioned earlier on, we use the live store page as a way to be able to tell which games we might be able to include in the trailer for our official marketing. We have to plan that all out ahead of time so we can get trailers, make sure those games are actually participating, cut the trailer together, etc. But I wouldn't let that hold you up. You can go ahead and register now, even if you intend to set your store page live sometime between now and when the event goes live. There's a question of how did the last Next Fest go? Sort of a broad question, but I think, from what we could tell, Next Fest is still quite popular, both for developers and players. We see increasing interest in games participating. We also see increased interest from players checking out demos and wishlisting games. I think the last edition went really well. People are super excited about Next Fest in general. Turns out players like playing free stuff and enjoying that as a way to experience new things and get excited about games. So I think we're gonna keep running this event for 3 times a year for the foreseeable future, as we see both strong interest from players and developers. We hope it helps you build an audience and find a bunch of visibility for your game as well, and hopefully get you feedback on your game too. Adriano has a question. Hey there, is it true that having a couple thousand wish lists before the event increased the visibility of the demo? So the way that we've intentionally built Next Fest and that we operate Next Fest now is that the first couple days of Next Fest, the way that games are selected to show up across the event are totally randomized. So it doesn't matter whether your demo or your store page went live the day before Next Fest or have been live for years gathering wish lists. We intend for those first couple of days to be very, I guess, like a level playing field. So fair in that it's randomly showing games to players as they come. So it operates that way for the first couple of days, Monday and Tuesday of the start of Next Fest. And then by the time we get to Wednesday morning Pacific time is usually when we flip over to then using the data that we have collected during those first couple of days and using that data to generate recommendations for players that are coming to experience Next Fest from that point forth. So ideally, and the way that this should all work is that regardless of how many wish lists you have going into Next Fest, that you should have an equal amount of chance of getting visibility and getting in front of customers. And then how the rest of Next Fest plays out and who your game gets recommended to will depend on how people engage and I guess the particular style or the kind of players that engage with your game on those first couple of days. So the way ideally that this would work is you've got a strategy game, for example, you launch into Next Fest, maybe you put up your store page just shortly before Next Fest, so you don't have any wish lists yet. During those first couple of days, your game is going to get shown randomly to a bunch of users. And over those first couple of days, it should be that the strategy fans are all excited to try out your game. They download your demo, they play it, they wishlist it. We're going to use that data to then inform that people, strategy players coming to Next Fest over the rest of the week are more likely to see your game because it matches the kinds of games that they play. And we've seen that work fairly well for the last few Next Fests that we've been running this way. And we think that means you don't have to worry about how many wish lists you have going into Next Fest. It's really about making it a level playing field and wherever you are in your development process. Alex asks a question about they're in the process of registering their company on Steam, so they haven't fully set up the digital paperwork, I believe. What is the deadline to ensure we complete everything successfully? I mean, we're here to answer the questions. We don't have an official Discord. There is a Steamworks community group where you can ask, like forums and a discussion group where you can ask other developers questions. So once you get through the digital paperwork and you're signed up in Steamworks, then you have access to that group. The deadline to get registered for participation in the October 2025 is our August 25th. So that's our registration deadline, basically the end of that day Pacific time. And I'll link again here the documentation for October. This has important dates and deadlines, things that you milestones that you kind of need to meet along the way. A lot of it is just kind of making sure that you're ready in time to participate with your demo, that your demo's gone through our review process, and that should help guide you in making sure that you're all ready to go by the time we get to Next Fest. The next question is from Raymond asking, how do I know if my trailer is usable for official Next Fest marketing? If you have a store page that is visible and you have a trailer that is visible on that store page, then we might consider including your trailer in our official trailer. As I mentioned earlier, it's like maybe a dozen games that we're able to feature in our trailer. So out of, I don't know, over 1,000 games that are signed up for Next Fest. So the chances are pretty slim that your game will be one of the ones selected to include in Next Fest. We're really looking for a broad variety of themes and genres just to represent to players the kinds of things they might expect to find in Next Fest. So I wouldn't stress over whether you're going to get picked up in that trailer or not. It's a pretty small number of games, but if you want to have your best chance of getting selected is just having a store page that is public, so your coming soon page up with a trailer on it. SG asks, can we have a demo up on Steam before Next Fest? Yes, absolutely. We've heard from many developers that like to put up a demo well in advance of Next Fest as a way to gather feedback from players, make sure that it's stable, make sure that it's a really good experience ahead of participating in Next Fest. Seems like a good idea, just to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward when you launch into Next Fest. But it's really up to you and your development timeline. We know developers that launch the day of Next Fest. There's always a lot of games that launch that way. And there's also lots of games that launch well in advance of Next Fest and use opportunities. Maybe there's other promotional opportunities they're trying to take advantage of, or maybe they're just launching their demo quietly and trying to get some small amount of feedback before it gets shown to a bunch of people in Next Fest. Either way is up to you. Joey asks, if my game is accepted into Next Fest, I'll clarify there's no acceptance criteria. If you register for Next Fest, then you're in Next Fest, as long as you ship a free playable demo and have a public store page by the time Next Fest starts. So once you register, there's no eligibility criteria. We're not going through and choosing which games participate and which games cannot. Once you registered, then you are good to go. You need to release your demo anytime before or on the day of Next Fest. We do recommend launching it prior to Next Fest. There's one period which is called out in our schedule, which is called the press preview. That starts 10 days prior to Next Fest. If you want the best chance of your game demo getting picked up and played by press, that is the best time to make sure that your demo is live. So at the start of the press preview. So for October, the date there is October 2nd is when that press preview will be starting, 10 a.m. Pacific. So if your demo is reviewed, approved, published by October 2nd, then your demo will be available for press. At the same time, you are setting your demo live, so it will be available for the general public if they're finding your store page. The press preview is basically a page that looks a lot like Next Fest that we share only with a select group of press. I believe it's maybe about 100 press across the world that cover gaming well. And so that lets your demo be available. They're going to be more likely to write about your game and your demo if they can actually play it and put their hands on it. What this means is it gives the press a chance to compile and come up with their lists of, here's my top 10 favorite games I'm excited to play in Next Fest. And we've seen this works really well, which means on the date when Next Fest starts on October 13th, a bunch of press outlets immediately drop articles that say, here's the 10 most or whatever, 20 most demos that we're excited to play in Next Fest. So it's a great opportunity. I highly encourage that you have your demo available to play, but at the beginning of that press preview, which is October 2nd. Let's see. Raymond asks, if we upload a new trailer during Next Fest, will it instantly replace the one in the event hub, or does that require Valve to manually refresh it? So when you go to Next Fest, there's a widget at the very top of Next Fest where I think we call it Browse by Trailer. And it is all of the games of Next Fest. You can navigate through there one at a time and check out every single game by trailer. It pulls the first trailer that is shown on your store page at the time that the person views that page. So if you update the trailer that is on your store page, there's nothing else that needs to happen after that. It just means the next user that views your game in Next Fest will see that new first trailer. So by all means, update your stuff, ship new trailers. Make sure that your marketing assets on your store page are up to date with whatever the latest cool features and things that you're showing off about your game. Yaroslav asks, so when is the deadline for Steam page to be live? So we ask that your Steam page, your coming soon page, is live by the time you register August 25th. It is not absolutely required. So the absolute required time is the start of Next Fest, which is October 13th. However, you almost certainly would benefit from participating in the press preview, which starts October 2nd. So if you want to target the best optimal day, I would put up a coming soon page as soon as you're ready to start talking about your game. So that's probably sooner rather than later. I would recommend putting that up by the registration deadline because you want to have a page where you can start telling players about your game and give them a place to go take an action, like wishlist the game or learn more about the game. So I highly recommend having that up by August 25th. But if you can't hit that deadline, I would definitely make sure you have it up by October 2nd so you can be part of the press preview. Let's see. There are more questions about the Next Fest trailer. I really, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on this trailer, and I really want to stress again that there's really only a dozen games that are able to appear in this trailer. It's not a very long trailer. So I really wouldn't stress about it. If you want your best chance and putting your best foot forward, just make sure that the trailer that is listed first on your store page is the trailer that you are most happy about, and we'll take it from there. I guess more questions of, is there a minimum number of wish lists required to be featured in Next Fest? We don't do specific featuring in Next Fest. It is the event is built around organic and recommendation systems. So it's going to look at personalizing the Next Fest page for every user that comes to Next Fest. The exception is the first couple of days where everybody is going to see kind of the same thing because it's all randomized. So that actually means that when I go to Next Fest on the first day of Next Fest, everything's going to be randomized. I'm going to see a random selection of games. You come to Next Fest on the first day, you're going to see a different set of randomized games. Then by the time we get to Wednesday, when you come back to Next Fest, for example, or if you come to Next Fest for the first time on Wednesday, then I will see different games than you see because we have a different history of different games that we've played. And so if you play, for example, if you play a bunch of simulation games and you come to Next Fest on Wednesday, you're going to be more likely to see a bunch of simulation games first and foremost. So there's not featuring. We don't curate and select games to show up more prominently than other games. It's driven by player interest and what players are interested in playing, what kind of genres and themes and things that they've played in the past. So, yeah. And then we also have different ways of browsing Next Fest that are broken down by genre and by theme. So those rely on the tags that you have set on your store page. And so for that, for Steam in general, and also for Next Fest, just making sure that the tags you have applied to your store page are honest and complete. And beyond that, you don't need to obsess over the exact order of tags or which tags are there and which tags are not there. Just make sure that the tags that are on your store page represent the content in your game, and the themes, the genres, the styles, the point of view, the art, the player count, those kind of things. Just make sure that it's accurate and true, and you don't necessarily need to stress over exactly that from there. Adam asks, if we are hoping to take part of the press preview, are we able to update the build after your initial September 16th submission? The September 16th date is when we recommend that you have submitted your demo build for review. So before anything launches on Steam, it goes through a review process where our own in-house testers will actually play your demo. They're checking to make sure, does it launch? Is it configured properly? So that's great. Making sure it's going to be a good experience for users from day one. And then also just roughly checking, like, does it roughly match what's described on the store page? Obviously, your demo contents aren't going to be exactly what you describe on your full game store page. That's totally fine. So we're just mostly checking to make sure that it launches, runs well, and is roughly what you're describing. Once you've gone through that review process, you are totally welcome to keep updating your demo as much as you want. Your store page too. We intentionally build Steam to have a lot of flexibility in that because we know that you're going to need to add new content, fix bugs, things like that. You can do that all on your own schedule, update as often as you need to and whenever you need to. Is there anything new about how live streams work on store pages? Jill asks. There's nothing new about how live streams work on store pages. Live streaming used to be a much bigger component of Next Fest, and it has kind of been demoted for a couple of reasons. First of all, we found that not every game lends itself well to being live streamed. So that immediately would put a bunch of games at disadvantage that are just not great for being live streamed. Short narrative games, for example, aren't that great when represented in live stream form. Also, a bunch of developers just aren't comfortable or aren't that good at live streaming their own games. So we didn't want that to be a requirement or a hurdle holding games back from getting visibility. So there is a section of Next Fest where players can go and seek out games that are running live streams. And you are welcome to do that if it fits with your goals and your style and what you're comfortable doing. It's also potentially interesting on your store page. But I'll put a caveat there that when a user visits your store page, and a lot of times what they enjoy about seeing a live stream is that the live stream usually reflects exactly what it's like to play the game. So if you think about that from a customer perspective, that's what they're most interested in learning about your game. So if you're cutting together a trailer to promote your game, maybe think about just making your trailer show gameplay and show players what they're going to be doing in the game. So what is the point of view that they will be playing the game from? What is the core loop that they're going to be doing in the game? What kind of game is it? So think about representing those things in your game trailer itself. And then the value of running a live stream is not that much more than having that kind of stuff in your trailer itself. A trailer or a live stream might be useful if you plan to be live and wanting to answer questions as players have them and interact with the live stream in that way. But again, I wouldn't recommend that that is necessarily the way to do it. If you want to interact with players that way and you're comfortable interacting with players that way, then by all means run a live stream and do that. But if you don't want to do that, then don't feel compelled like you're missing out on something if you don't run a live stream. Another question about once the demo has been approved and reviewed, can they keep updating it? Absolutely. Definitely keep updating your demo as you need. So don't wait until the last minute to submit your demo build for review. Give yourself time and know that you can continue updating it after it's gone through review. When you submit it for review, it should be complete, it should be playable, it should launch, it should be configured correctly. But you're welcome to keep fixing bugs and things like that. By the way, I see maybe a few people are dropping questions into the chat. Please don't do that. It's really hard for me to track those questions in chat. Please use the Q&A channel to ask questions. Then I can see them one by one and I can mark them as answered. That really helps me track. We have gone through 29 questions and we have another 46. So I may or may not make it through all of these questions. There's a question here. Any changes to the display of adult game visibility within NextFest? No. Steam is built in a way where user preferences influence a lot of how the store displays things. So people that have opted in specifically to allow adult-only content then can see that in NextFest. And people who have opted out of that will not see that in NextFest. So it's entirely driven by user preference. I'll just point out that a lot of people have opted into seeing adult-only content, so it's by no means limiting your audience. And we definitely want to respect user preferences, whether they want to see that or not see that. So as the same with Steam in and of itself, NextFest works with user preferences to make sure that we're showing people the stuff that they want to see and not show them the things that they have expressed and told us that they don't want to see. There's another question from Grouper Games asking about a demo. Is that something we can make for NextFest? So a free playable demo is required in order to participate in NextFest. That is the point of NextFest. So NextFest is a chance for players to try out free demos for unreleased upcoming games. So the demo itself would normally be some subset of the content of your game, a slice of your gameplay, maybe the core, one of the core maps, or some part of your story. And how long it is, how big it is really up to you and what works for you and your game. You kind of want to give people enough of a taste of your demo to get them excited and hooked, but then kind of stop or end the demo at a point where it leaves them wanting more. So they're going to be excited and compelled to get your full game. An anonymous question: how many games submitted by the deadline actually make it into NextFest? What are our chances? So there is no selection criteria. If you register for NextFest and your game is unreleased, your full game is unreleased, it's coming in the future sometime after NextFest, and you release a free playable demo, and you have a publicly visible store page for your game, then you're going to be in NextFest. So there's no curation. I'm not going through and deciding which games get to participate and which games do not. We do see there's a bunch of games that register to participate in NextFest, and then for whatever reason they end up not having their demo ready in time, or they decide that they're not ready and they want to maybe participate in the next NextFest, not this one. That is totally fine too. If your plans change, you can always go back and change and update your registration to cancel and back out of the NextFest. Please do that before NextFest starts. So before October 13th, if you get to that point and you realize our demo's not quite there yet, we're not going to be ready, we'd rather participate in February, totally fine. Please go into the registration form where you registered and cancel your registration. So untick the box at the very bottom of the page and save. That will keep you eligible to participate with your game in the next edition of NextFest. So please do that. Yeah, I think we see something like 20 or 30% of the games that register for Next Fest end up not actually participating. That's totally fine, totally normal part of the workflow. So you're not going to get in time for this Next Fest, please go update your registration. In order to have your demo available for the press preview period, you will be setting your demo live, and that will make it publicly available as well. So you will have some number of players that are also trying out your demo in those days before Next Fest. Also totally fine and normal. It doesn't do anything, it doesn't hold anything against your participation in Next Fest itself. And in fact, we hear from many, many developers that are launching their demos well ahead of Next Fest to make sure that there are some people playing it, reporting bugs, things like that. If you are specifically looking for feedback from your demo, I would highly recommend putting a big button in the main menu screen of your demo that says, give us feedback, and have that button point to wherever you want to collect feedback, whether it's a forum or a Discord channel, or you have a Jira bug reporting process where you want people to file a ticket. Wherever you want that to go to, give people a clear and easy way to give you feedback and make it clear that you want their feedback and you value their feedback. There's a question of when do we know if our trailer will be in the Next Fest trailer? We notify people, I think it's listed in our dates here somewhere. It's somewhere in September where we're deciding which games we're going to be including. October 2nd is the final deadline that we need to be confident that you are actually participating in Next Fest so that we can cut the final trailer. But if you're one of our kind of initial selects for the trailer, we'll be notifying you well ahead of that. Yeah, sometime around August 26th. Yeah, so it happens right after registration deadline closes. So registration for October edition of Next Fest will close August 25th. And then by August 26th, we will notify the people whose trailer we want to include in ours. Again, I'd really like to stress there's only a dozen games that we're able to include in that trailer. It is not a big deal one way or the other. Please don't stress out about it. We're selecting a variety of different games to represent in there, and it's unclear how valuable that kind of promotion is for the individual games that are included. There's really only short snippets of them in our official trailer. You can go on YouTube, Steam YouTube, and look at our past Next Fest trailers and kind of get a sense of what they look like and how those games are presented. So there is some visibility on those games, but we're not looking at like we're not like trying to qualify these as the best trailers or the best games of Next Fest. It's really, hey, look, there's a bunch of different genres and a bunch of different kinds of games that are featured in Next Fest. Here's a sample of them. There's a question, is it possible to participate in Next Fest for only a portion of the event, e.g. 3 or 4 days? If you intend to launch your full game in the middle of Next Fest, and that is really important to you, you can still participate for a couple of days. Still interesting for people to try out your demo in the 3 or 4 days leading up to your game launch. I would recommend against doing that, unless that, you're trying to line your launch date with all sorts of other things, then, and that's where it comes out, that's totally fine. It does mean that for things like at the end of Next Fest, when we generate the most played games of Next Fest, your game won't be eligible because it wasn't part of Next Fest for the whole period. And it means once your game launches, if your game launches in the middle of Next Fest, then at that point we'll kick it out of Next Fest, because Next Fest shouldn't be listing games that are available to purchase and play at that point. There's a question about kind of algorithms and visibility during Next Fest. So I described at a high level how this works, that the first couple of days of Next Fest, the way that we surface games to players is randomized. So everybody that comes to Next Fest will see a different randomized selection of games. After those first initial couple days, we'll use the data collected from those first couple days in order to generate recommendations that are personalized around each person that is visiting. So instead of being randomized at that point, it will be specifically selected and personalized for the user that is visiting. So I like to play a lot of big open world survival games, for example. So if I come to Steam, starting after the first couple of days, then Steam, the Next Fest is going to be much more likely to show me open world survival games because that's the kind of thing I play. Or if I come and I've been playing a bunch of puzzle games, then Steam is going to be more likely to show me puzzle games in Next Fest at that point. So it's going to be personalized at that point on. Yeah. Adam asks a question about, do we need an official demo version or just a playable working version? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there, but a demo in Steam, there's a formal concept of a demo. So it is a separate app ID from your base game, and it works as a child of your base game. I'll put a link in chat about what a demo is and how that works. So you'll set it up underneath your base, your full game, and it is a separate app ID that people will install and launch and play, totally separate from your full game. So that is a thing that you need to upload separate builds for your demo and send that through the review process like you would a full game. Raymond is asking about releasing after Next Fest, whether they need to release on the last day of Next Fest or afterwards. You're free to release your game anytime after Next Fest, whatever works for your schedule. We find a bunch of developers may get a bunch of feedback on their demo during Next Fest, and they want chance to incorporate that feedback into the full game before they release the full game. So you may want to consider not aiming to launch your game immediately after Next Fest, unless you're already super confident about your game going into Next Fest, and you just want to use Next Fest as sort of a launching pad towards an immediate release. The timing is really up to you, and we've seen developers take different timing and trajectories that are kind of all over the board. Alex asks, I also wanted to ask if you're planning any offline events or participating in global events where we could take part or meet the team. Yeah, so we as a team, the Steam team travels to a few events throughout the year. So we're usually at GDC in San Francisco in March. We'll be at Gamescom next week, DevCom next week. If you happen to be there, you can look me up if you're at DevCom, you can look me up in the Meet to Match, and we might be able to sit down for a chat while we're there. We run a couple of our own events at these game conferences where we try to get a chance to meet with game developers and chat with game developers. We send out a survey, I think around the beginning of the year, kind of asking developers, hey, what conferences do you plan to travel to in case we happen to be going there, or it might influence which conferences we end up traveling to. We had, I think, 1,400 developers say that they were interested in meeting us at Gamescom. We're not going to be able to meet with that many developers, so I apologize if you're on that list and we didn't get a chance to actually invite you to our events. We just have way more interest than we have capacity. So I apologize for that, but we do travel to a number of events throughout the year. Within Steamworks, one of the menus, there is a link to, I think it's called Meet Steam, and there's a survey you can fill out to tell us what events you travel to, and we might be able to meet you there. There's a question about press preview starting October 2nd. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about press preview. Press preview is we share a preview version of the Next Fest sale page. So it looks almost exactly like the final Next Fest page that you and I and the public will visit once Next Fest goes live. We have a version of that we send just to select press outlets. And I believe it's around 100 press around the world, covers gaming in all sorts of different languages around the globe. We send a preview of them with the list of all the games that are going to be participating in Next Fest. And if your demo is playable at the point that we send out that preview, then those journalists and those press have an opportunity to potentially download and try your demo. That will give them the most likely chance of writing about your game and demo if that's the right thing for their audience. It's entirely up to the press, so not and there's a lot of games participating, so not everybody's going to get their game written about. But participating in that and having your demo live for the press preview gives you the best chance of having somebody potentially cover your game. And so that press preview starts on October 2nd. So that just means you'll need, if you want to participate in that fully, you'll need to release your demo like you would normally, release it on October 2nd, and then it will be available to the press that are checking out the press preview. Everett asks, how late can a demo build be uploaded and still be eligible for Next Fest? So, I mean, there's two parts to that. One is once you upload your demo, you'll still have to submit it for our review team to look at and approve. And like I said earlier, that review process is really our team is making sure that your demo launches, that it's configured correctly. It's roughly what you describe on the store page. It's mostly just technically making sure that it works. And so you'll need to go through that period. We recommend that you do that at least a week before the press preview. So I think we say September 16th to be safe, because you're welcome to continue updating your demo build anytime before or after that review process. So the very latest that you can do this and still have a hope of launching your demo in time for Next Fest. So Next Fest itself starts on October 13th. If you give yourself, if you're cutting it down to the wire and like uploading your build at the beginning of October and submitting for review right before Next Fest, you're going to stress yourself out and our review team and get all anxious about trying to get it reviewed in time. So I wouldn't wait that long. So I would say if you're aiming for the kind of the last possible date, I would aim to have your demo uploaded and submitted for review by the beginning of October. Rajiv asks, is there a limit on how many times we can update a build after initial submission? No, there is no limit. You can update your game, your demo build as often as you need to, as in big ways, little ways. Obviously, don't change your entire game. That's probably not going to be what customers are expecting. But yeah, you're welcome to fix bugs and ship updates as often as you need to. So that's by design. We want to make that easy and flexible. You have your own schedule for how you're updating and working on your game. We don't want to be in the way of that. Dave asks, what is the thinking on when to release the full game after Next Fest? Sounds like he had some things in mind, but I think there is no one right answer. Some developers choose to launch right after Next Fest and use Next Fest as kind of momentum leading into their launch. Other developers wait a while. Maybe they want to incorporate some feedback or they're still working on their full game. They might launch later. It totally depends on your schedule and kind of how you want to approach using Next Fest. Do you want to use it for feedback? Do you want to use it as a way to gather a bunch of audience right before you launch? So it really is up to you. I've been studying one thing of just trying to track like how many games launch in the 3 months following a Next Fest. And I think what we found is maybe 30% of the games that participate in Next Fest had launched within the 3 months following Next Fest. So there's still a lot of games that have not launched within that period. So maybe that's helpful. Maybe it's not. Your process and your development pipeline is going to be different, and kind of how far you are along with your game and ready to launch is going to be different for each one of you. So you're going to have to make that timing call yourself and decide what feels like the right move to make there. Can the demo contain unique content that's not found in the full game? Yeah, it's up to you. If obviously you don't want to mislead customers about what your game is going to be. But if you want some special content that is available in the demo that's not going to be part of the full game, that's totally up to you. Just think about the user experience and what that's going to be like for people maybe that haven't tried out the demo, and if they go right into the full game, does it feel like they're missing something? And then they feel like they should go back and play the demo. That might be a little bit confusing and weird for them. So maybe just kind of think of what your goals would be for the demo. I wouldn't assume or count on everybody that plays or buys your final game. I wouldn't count on them having played your demo. So if you're counting on that being part of the storyline, I don't think you can rely on that. So whatever you put in the demo, I would be inclined to also include that in the full game. You could make it skippable in the full game if you think that a bunch of people that experienced it in the demo would want to skip over that. If it's an intro storyline or something that is long and lengthy, and if people already understand the story because they played the demo, maybe just make it skippable for them. This question, is it recommended to have your demo live when you set your store page live? If you set it live later, does it create additional traffic? The action of setting your demo live, it does show up on newly released demo list. So for players that go and browse new demos on Steam, there are lists where newly released demos will appear. I haven't really studied that carefully to see how much traffic that generates. So yeah, and when you set your demo live, you have an option to trigger an email to people who have wishlisted your full game. So you can imagine maybe you have your store page for your full game up for a while. Maybe it's 6 months, and some people that are interested in your game have found it. Maybe you're sharing information on social media, so people are coming and they're wishlisting your game. And then at some point you set your demo live, then there's a button you could press to say, send an email notification to everybody that's wishlisted my game to let them know that the demo is now available. So then those people that are interested in your game will get a reminder and notification that they can go and try out the demo now. So there is value in doing that. We only let you push that button within, 2 weeks of when you set your demo live, because kind of after that period, it's not really new anymore. And we don't want to get into a position where we're annoying or bothering players about something that is not, if there's not a good time sensitive reason to be notifying players, then it becomes less and less interesting to players. So you can send that notification within 2 weeks of launching your demo. So you might want to think about how those steps kind of connect. Put up a coming soon page for a while, gather some interest, launch your demo, hit the button to send a wish list email to the people who have wishlisted your game, then participate in Next Fest, get some more people excited about your game, trying out your demo, and then launch sometime after that. That is all a totally hypothetical process. Some developers follow that process. Some developers follow other processes. It's really going to be up to you and your goals and your timeline. All right, so we are really up against the end of the hour here. I have managed to answer 49 of your questions, and there are still 41 that are unanswered. So I apologize that I did not get to everybody's question. If your question was not answered already in this, I encourage you to go check out the Steamworks YouTube channel. We have an archive of all of our past Next Fest Q&As. We've answered a lot of questions over the years, and those Q&A videos are nicely bookmarked, so you can jump through there and see if the question that you had is already answered in one of those sessions. Thank you all for joining today. I hope you found this informative. I hope I was able to answer the important burning questions that you had. Otherwise, we'll be doing this again at some point. I actually don't have that date in front of me, but good luck with Next Fest, and we'll see y'all there.